You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org. This episode of Pizza Quest is brought to you by Central Milling, hand-selected grain, expertly milled for passionate bakers. Central Milling is the farmer, the miller, and the baker working together to preserve American farmland for tomorrow while providing the highest quality flour and grains for the bakers of today. Dating back over 150 years, Central Milling is built on generations of knowledge, and they know that premium flour starts at the source. Employee-owned, Central Milling works directly with their farmers to sustainably grow grains that have exceptional flavor, nutrient content, color, and baking performance, which results in one of the largest selections of premium specialty flour and grains in the country. Hand-selected for the highest baking qualities, milled, cracked, or blended slowly to minimize heat generation, then bake-tested for performance. Learn more about Central Milling and their products at centralmilling.com.
Hi, listeners. We wanted to let you know that Heritage Radio Network's Julia Child Fellowship application is now open. The fellowship offers an enriching experience for aspiring food writers and journalists who share our passion for food systems change. The fellowship is a great way to progress in the field of food journalism and digital media and will start in early January 2024. This fellowship will provide participants with hands-on experience, mentorship, and access to an extensive network of industry professionals. The application deadline is November 27, 2023. Check out heritageradionetwork.org and click on the Julia Child Foundation Writing Fellowship link to learn more. If you or someone you know has interest in food studies and journalism, this might be a great fit. Go to heritageradionetwork.org and check out the application today. Thank you.
I'm Peter Reinhardt. Welcome to Pizza Quest. Coming to you from the Atlantic City Convention Center, the Northeast Pizza and Pasta and Artisan Baking Expo. And I'm sitting here with Scott Wiener, one of our favorite regular guests on Pizza Quest. Scott, welcome back, and thanks for sitting with us.
Oh, it's always awesome to be able to hang out with you and chat.
When did I last saw you when you dropped in when we were talking to Phil Korshak a couple episodes ago,
man.
and you came in and said hello, and that was cool. That was a great moment.
Well, you're in this great spot right now in the aisle in the convention center, and so if I walk by, not only are you sitting here, not only is Liam sitting here, but there's always a guest who I want to hang out with anyway.
And you know everybody.
But it was so hard to not interrupt you. I see Phil Korshak, who's one of my favorite people in the world, and I had to.
It was perfect because it showed to all of us, how beloved Phil is in the industry, and he was there talking about having to close his bagel shop that had become legendary in just the 2.5 years that he was doing it. And it's an important story.
Yeah.
We talked about some deep, touching stuff with him, and I think that your response to seeing him here was an illustration of how much he means to people.
Yeah, I love him so much.
Well, thanks for being back with us, and you're here, and as usual, wearing many hats, and we want to hear what they are. But we're also going to ask our friend John Gutekanst to join us, who also dropped in. So we're gonna have you both on for one big superstar episode here. It's a super session featuring Al Cooper, Stephen Stills, and Mike Bloomfield, and us. So John, welcome back to Pizza Quest. You and I were together this morning. We did a panel together this morning on tinkering with your dough, which was really fun. We got some
awesome.
great questions from the crowd.
Yeah.
And so, again, those who may have remember hearing John on Pizza Quest before, but John is a super talented chef, pizza operator from Athens, Ohio.
Yeah.
Avalanche Pizza.
Yep.
Killing it there. And most people are going, Athens, Ohio, what's there?
What's there? What is there? That's the Ohio University.
Ohio University.
Is
not the Ohio State University.
No.
Ohio University.
In fact, the big joke is we would get people in administration, and they thinking that they got hired at OSU, and they'd come down to OU and just say, "Well, where's my office?" And
yeah, right.
What is this place?
Is Athens kind of a small little town, or
it is a small town? And when the summer comes, it cleans out. It's one of the poorest counties in Ohio too. So it's got a very diverse community. You've got the hill jacks, you got the hillbillies, you got the hippies that have turned into a hillbilly. Then you've got the hill jack is what they call a hillbilly in Ohio.
Hill jack.
If that explains
and then
anything.
you got the college students who nobody understands what generation they're part of anymore.
And they don't care, yeah.
Right.
They're hammered half the time. But
so Avalanche Pizza though is there for
we've been
whatever
there
reason
23
you landed
years.
there for 23 years.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And many of you might know, John, if you read Pizza Today magazine, a big trade journal in the pizza industry, you're a regular contributor.
Yeah.
And usually offering recipes, inventive recipes. You did a presentation here at this expo on like 4 out-of-the-box pizzas, right?
Oh yeah, 8 actually.
8 out. Wow.
I was so stupid.
Somebody who went to that told me they loved it. They loved tasting the pizzas.
I had just seen the Hateful Eight, and they called me and said, "You want to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's call it the Eightful Eight." And then my guys are like, "John, let me get this straight. We have to do 8 pizzas, all big."
And I'm thinking the same thing. I said, "Are you kidding me? You came here to work that hard?"
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Did you hear about this, Scott?
It was bad.
I did, but you're just making me think of John's columns and articles he writes.
Yeah.
I feel like he starts with the puns and then works backwards. Hey, he's got the best headlines, the best subsections, and I'm like, this is beautiful.
And the recipes are
The ones
really,
they turned down.
Those are.
but the recipes are all killer. Every time you do it in the, it's
hard to do
you want to
recipes.
make those recipes. And
You've got some great articles too, Scott.
They let me write the column.
Scott
which
is
fun. I
also
can
a
write about
regular
whatever.
contributing editor to Pizza Today. You're kind of like the man on the street, which is for me.
Just write about whatever I see going on in my pizza travels. It's always fun.
It's a great gig because you get to just say, "Hey, I've been thinking about this," and they give you a place to write. You're like a columnist.
It's just a column. It's been, and I think it's been like 12 or 13 years. It's been going.
Amazing.
Long time. And I keep thinking, oh, this is like the next one that I write, which is probably due to them, 3 weeks ago?
But
is my number 150.
Wow, that is
about 150
that's amazing.
columns.
And who would have thought it all started with Scott's Pizza Tours, where you took people around to the best pizzerias in New York City and gave them the history, and you became the pizza historian for the industry, but also for New York City, and the collector, the world record holder of pizza boxes and everything else. But your passion and love for pizza has now turned you into one of the most recognizable influencers in the pizza community.
Yep, definitely.
Well, I'm for the whatever set of circumstances allowed me to do the pizza tour thing and dive in head first and not have to have a real job besides that.
Yeah.
It's just been, I feel like I have carte blanche to get as deep into whatever nuance I want because it all manifests as part of the tour.
Yeah.
So if I want to really dive deep into some weird little moment of the pizza world, then it's okay because it comes up on a tour. So that's why I went to the Anthracite Heritage Museum in northeastern PA to learn more about anthracite coal. I'm like, because that helps me talk about stuff on a tour. Yeah, absolutely.
High silica or low
Carbon, like high carbon, low water content.
Oh man.
Because we're dealing with those pizzerias on the tour, and I got to know everything I possibly can. So when somebody asks what they think of as being like,
So
this is just a silly question.
To go deeper down the rabbit hole.
Oh yeah, and it keeps getting deeper. John knows that.
Oh yeah, man. I tell you what, it's like in our area, like for coal-fired, if you had a coal-fired pizza, you wouldn't use it because we have a high sulfur content in our thing. But they used to do, every house in our neighborhood has a coal chute, where they would just
Coal
get the
chute, really, yeah.
coal chute, coal seam, and hook it up like that. So,
But you guys are really the two, I would say, most ubiquitous presences at every pizza expo and every gathering because you're hosting an event or you're
he's
judging.
got the knowledge. I just have a big mouth.
But
so.
you're on stage all the time. You're doing things. You're not just attending. You're part of the program.
Well, that's when these guys come here, a lot of them are from small towns and stuff. And you got, even when I write an article, same thing with you probably. You got to connect with them. You can't be this like superstar, high and mighty and stuff. And that's why I like you. And in fact, one of my guys said that about you, that you never say never do this. You never say don't do that. Whatever you do, I hate when people do that. Blah 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 blah.
That's my love for improvisational theater is yes, yes and.
Yes and.
Yeah. I believe it. I believe it as a life principle. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's what's so cool is you ask Peter something, and there's never any kind of hierarchy or right and wrong. It's always you have this wild, like childlike mentality. Curiosity. Exactly. Which when I first found out about you, remember I read your books years ago. I emailed you a couple times, and Peter was kind enough to email back. I was like, this is like, your prayers are being answered to you, right?
When people ask you questions, it gives your life a sense of purpose.
Yeah, but to me,
honored.
this is a guy who wrote these great bread books and a pizza book, but the fact that everything to you was, oh, well, that's interesting. The phrase, that's interesting, that's the Peter Reinhardt phrase.
I think being interesting is what makes people, being interested is what makes people interesting.
Yeah, that's exactly
And a friend of mine told me that years ago. They said, the secret to being interesting is to be interested. And I went, that's been a credo for me. And I never had the words for it, but he just defined, kind of what keeps me going. Because when you lose interest and that's why I love, you can talk to anybody if you feel, you can find something interesting in their story.
And there's always something.
And there's always something, yeah. So being
unless asking a woman if she's pregnant, you never want to do that.
There's certain things you can't ask. But podcasting is the perfect medium for somebody who who just is interested in people. I think Larry King was the master of that, wasn't he?
Yes.
He said that.
Into it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Way to go.
And he wrote a book on it.
Really?
Right. Well, it got him a lot of girls. I'll tell you that.
It really did.
Right up into his 90s.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Well, I'll go hiking, and some of my best buddies are a mushroom guy who's a birder, another one who's totally into mushrooms. We got this young guy who's into mushrooms. My son's into trees. And all sorts of, and you just walk through the forest and they're like, oh, what is that?
Yeah.
Hold it, what is that? I'll try and make things up.
People who have natural curiosity and interest in life are fun to be around.
Exactly. When I told my wife I had a panel discussion with you the first year, she's just like, I'm like, it's Peter Reinhardt. And I held up your book, The Apprentice.
Red Baker's Apprentice.
Red Baker's Apprentice. And she's just like, John, how many other people are on the panel? And I'm just me. And she's like, oh, don't do it, John. He's going to catch you in a lie. You're going to do the same thing you do. I'm like, hold it. Same thing I do where?
right. She's basically calling you on BS.
That's right. She's like, around the house.
Well, that's funny. But I'll tell you, here's the secret for me. This is my, when you talk about credos in life. So after doing this show now for 10, 12 years now, we've been doing Pizza Quest. Here's actually my mantra in life, and I learned this years ago as a meditation that somebody gave me that changed my life. And the meditation was reverence the reverences of others, not the things they revere. And you would sit with that phrase and meditate on it for 30 minutes or whatever every day, and it definitely became sort of, it made sense. It helped me make sense of the world and to be able to enjoy the world as opposed to be fighting against it all the time.
So then let me ask you this.
Because it keeps you from being judgmental. That's the key. And I think the worst thing that anybody who's following a religious path can be accused of is being judgmental. Mm-hmm. And it happens all the time.
You can see it.
It's the biggest trap.
You're
Yeah.
to them
And so I went, what's my pathway out of becoming a judgmental son of a bitch?
And it's hard.
And
it
was
hard getting out of that.
Yeah. It's natural to be judgmental.
Everything.
But it's a death sentence to be judgmental, because judge not lest you be judged, and I hate being judged.
Yeah. That's tough, especially when you own a small business, because you're like, okay, this is going to happen. Now this is going to happen with this person. And so you end up calling this person who complained, and they're super nice, and you find out that you were in the wrong, and you're like,
right.
Oh, okay.
What a humiliation.
Now, yes, exactly. Yeah.
But then how do you deal with that situation where, like, for instance, in pizza, you're judging a competition, and then somebody next to you believes in there being a right and a wrong, and this, but maybe you don't. Like, how does that conversation with that person work? Maybe you're just talking to them on the floor about.
I saw that conversation between you and another judge today. That was awesome. No, it was great. He asked
Were
you
you at a
something, and
difference
you're
of
like,
opinion?
well, I don't know about that. Are you sure? And
well, I'm just super careful when I'm judging. I don't want to talk to any other judge while we're judging anything.
Absolutely.
I don't want somebody to lean over and say, too much cheese, right? Like, I block it out.
Yep.
But then after we hand in a paper, if another judge says to me,
What do you think?
and I think there was a moment, I don't know if this was the moment that it happened, but somebody said something about, we were talking about the type of flour that somebody uses. And if we were to ask them the question when they present the pizza, what flour are you using? My perspective is, I don't care to know the answer. I just care to assess the pizza. And then if something was flawed, then I might try to work backwards
So
and
you
say,
don't want to be influenced ahead of time.
no,
by
I
that
don't care
stuff.
what
Yeah.
brand
Yeah,
of tomato
yeah.
you used. Because I just care what it tasted
Well, I think
like.
I agree that I think it's better to ask that question after you've formed your opinion of the
I'm
pizza.
endlessly
yeah.
curious about what they used,
How they
but
got
I
there.
don't want that to affect my assessment of the pizza.
I think that makes sense to me. I agree with that premise.
But I think that's tough about like these competitions because when you're behind the curtain, somebody who's a competitor will write out on an index card information. Actually, John and I talked about this for maybe half a second yesterday.
So when you say behind the curtain, you mean the judging booth?
Yeah, when it's a blind competition,
Yeah.
then they'll write a card that says, "Here's what I made," and I personally don't care about the card very much.
You don't want all that details.
I'm just
Not
looking
then.
for what is it that they're giving me. If they go into detail about here's my hydration, here's the fermentation time, to me, there's a trap where that could turn into a
Yeah.
flex where
Yeah.
a judge might judge them based on what they wrote on a card.
Yeah.
Oh, 92% hydration. Wow, that's special. When I eat the pizza,
Yeah.
if you're telling me all these crazy things you did, but it falls flat, I'm going to judge you worse.
Yeah. Basically, don't pre-sell me the results.
When there's a story on the card,
Yeah.
I don't read
Yeah,
I don't
it
care.
feels like you've just walked into a car dealership and he's telling you about the horsepower and all this stuff before you've had a chance to test drive the car.
Unless there's a marketing component to the competition.
Yeah.
Creativity and marketing and all that. And then at that point, then I want to know your food cost and
Sure.
like a million other things. But if it's just eating, like with Neapolitan today, I just finished judging Neapolitan. I don't want to go through the questions. I really want them to say, this is a pizza marinara, and then cut it and give it to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through, I did a biga, I did this.
Did you taste any pizzas in that category that kind of blew your mind? And aha, pizzas that you said this is clearly going to be a podium winner.
There are very few that blew my mind in the Neapolitan. Yeah.
Over too wet.
Well, with Neapolitan, I mean, your listeners probably know with Neapolitan, the margin for error is so small.
Yeah.
that
That's why
the
it's such
difference
a challenge to
between-
be.
yeah,
Yeah.
which is why it's so easy to judge.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the flaws are clear.
Uh-huh.
And I'm big on judging based on flaws. I start every pizza. Oh, great pizza. Okay, here's a flaw. I saw a lot of skid marks where they turn the pie on a hot spot. It's a flaw.
Ah.
I see some gumminess right underneath the sauce. Okay, a little flaw. Excess flour. A hole, thin spots.
Yeah.
Things that are easy to.
Those are the things that are the points are ticking away.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a gymnast not quite sticking the landing or something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you can't argue with when somebody says, "Oh, what was wrong? It was perfect." I show them a picture of the underside and I say, "Was this all intentional?" Or they say, "Oh, well, it's a little uneven and that part's burnt." And I say, "That's the hardest thing about Neapolitan."
Mm-hmm.
And there were a couple today that really shone bright. One was a pizza marinara, and with that, you're
you really have to. Yeah.
Really.
So were there visible flaws then were there any that came to you that were flawless?
there's nothing flawless in this world. So I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for execute on
Yeah.
the promise.
It's not like it's not
That's
a great
it.
pizza, but it's not a 10.0. It's maybe a 9.4 or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because some of these pizzas that I maybe scored moderate to low, I would have been very happy with in a restaurant. But when you're only making one pizza,
Yeah.
it's different from, oh, well, they're making 300 tonight.
So
4 days to get everything. And to me, it said some of the facts that they come out with, and it's just like, wow, you like when the two guys were here from Naples, the people who wrote the book on STG. I was telling these young pizza men, what percentage of salt do you have in your dough? And they're like, I don't deal with that. I'm like, those guys are going to ask you, so you got to be ready, at least have, your
when you said they
gun
wrote the
cocked
book on
loaded.
STG, what is STG?
The true Neapolitan rules.
Oh,
for
like the
Napolitan
okay,
pizza.
yeah. I call it the
Napolitan.
VPN or whatever.
VPN,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It's essentially like STG is the EU's adoption.
Yes.
Oh, the VPN. Yeah.
So where VPN is a nonprofit
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
separate.
STG is the.
STG, you don't need to pay
Yeah.
anybody.
There you go.
So-
I see. So it's another.
Claim to what you're trying to do.
I gotcha. So
And in the States, it's too close to STD, so you
Yeah,
really don't
it
want
is.
to go in
It is.
that
I know.
direction.
I know. I'm saying, what are you
I don't know
talking
if your listeners are.
So when you were
Maybe I'll go
judging,
backwards.
in that category, Scott, did you judge every pizza that came in that category, or did they have different judges trading off at different times?
I came in halfway through.
You did almost 3/4.
Was it 3/4?
Silo was there probably a little bit.
Okay, but
So-
I do see the value in
'Cause-
having the same person.
Well, there's pros and cons on that. I think one is to have the same judges on everything, at least you get the consistency that this judging panel was this way, because when they switch out judges, the criteria of each judge can vary.
Yeah.
So sometimes, a pizza that would have scored high with one group may not score high with another group, and you don't know. You'll never really know, but it always seems unfair to me. On the other hand, if you're judging a lot of pizzas, then there's the fatigue factor. The first pizza you taste is going to taste differently to you than the last pizza you taste, and it's unfair to be first, and it's unfair to be last sometimes in these competitions.
Well, I've been working on a solution to that.
Oh.
I'm working on a certification program that I've been pitching to the shows. To let's give the judges a program that they go through to train them on flaws.
Yeah.
So that everybody can identify flaws.
Which is the way it should be. There should be a template and a what do you call rubric.
I'm essentially following the model of barbecue. Barbecue has competitions all over the country.
And they have criteria.
Amateur and professional, and sometimes they're the same. And they have a training program, and you go through the training.
I've been through that.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. You love it. You love learning the rubric of how to
But also,
qualify.
It will make people better competitors, and it will make people want to be judges, where now sometimes they have trouble finding judges.
That's true.
And I think there needs to be an incentive for somebody to want to be a judge.
And it's easier for you to evaluate something when you have criteria to check it against, rather than just opinion.
To some people, a 0 to 10 scale means, well, the worst pizza is a 7. And to some people, the worst pizza is a 0.
Yeah.
And I think if you train people, then the judge that comes in and treats 0 as terrible, 5 as decent, and 10 as great, that person coming in is not fair to swap in for somebody who thinks a 7 is the worst.
Yeah.
And a 10 is the best.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get some, some traction on that.
Yeah, I've been,
It only makes sense because it makes it fair.
First people points. They would give them 4 points for going first.
Oh,
and
really?
Then I think one
It's
of the
kind of like
competitions,
a little handicap.
But that can sometimes be the best,
Yeah.
I mean, I tasted 5 small things of cheese slices coming out yesterday, and I lost all perspective on judging which one was the best. The first one was wow. Second one was wow. With a little basil.
Were you on the judging panel, or were you just tasting them afterwards?
After they came out of the judging room, and then I looked at you guys in a different perspective.
And of course, we haven't heard the results yet. That's coming in about an hour. Yep. But would you say that when you were tasting the cheese pizzas, which is a very tough category also, because it's just cheese and sauce, no toppings. It's all about that balance of cheese and topping and crust.
Yeah.
Did you find any that kind of like you went, wow, that's going to be a winner?
So it's weird. If it lands on the judges' table, you judge it. But there were a couple that came to the table that felt like cheese pizzas with some cheats in them. Where, this sauce was made with some complex thing going on, which would not be a normal cheese. When I think of cheese pizza, I walk into the shop, I say, give me 2 slices.
Yeah.
And then they give them to me.
Yeah.
This would be the standard slice. But I got one yesterday that it felt like it had a citrus infusion in the oil or something. That wasn't indicated on the card.
Embellishment.
And I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
But it also felt to me not like a cheese pizza.
Yeah, it's kind of like, did they add MSG to make it taste better?
So it's like not a disqualification at all. It's just...
Because it's not in the rules that you can't do that.
Exactly. I just feel weird about...
Yeah, right. I got my
that's a Gutekanst thing.
porcini cheese that I've used. Right.
But I feel like if you... a cheese pizza? Yeah. In the traditional category in the past few years, cheese pizzas have won because traditional is a sauce, cheese, and 2 toppings.
Yeah.
Usually people do a heavy, deep sauce and sausage and pepperoni as a topping.
And as an MC, I have respect for those. I mean, a guy just sitting there doing a cheese pizza, and I'm like, that's it. And you know what?
But those, to the judges, those stick out a lot.
Yeah.
Because, this person's not hammering my taste buds with... honestly, just salt.
Banana pepper, salt, and spice.
Right.
Pepper.
That's why competition is different from what's the best pizza in my shop. Because you got to think about the judges eating 20 pizzas.
Yeah.
And do something that's going to stick out and maybe be refreshing.
And this is true in many culinary competitions. The barbecue you mentioned. I've been in chili competitions, barbecue competitions, and very often the winners, the one who wins the gold medal, is not the one who got the most first place votes, but usually the most second place votes by more judges, and because usually the first place winner also is on the last choice of some other judge, so the total points don't add up for them because they don't always have the same palates. The judges are all different. They have sometimes different criteria unless they've been trained to do it.
That's why training is important.
Yeah.
If you have a barbecue judge come in who just knows what they like but doesn't know how barbecue works, I feel like that's not great for the competition.
And when it comes down to, in my opinion, then you're already in trouble because there shouldn't be that
Yes.
much opinion involved. There should
That's
be,
exactly it.
did they check off the criteria that they're supposed to? And again, sometimes that doesn't make the best selling product, but it checked off the criteria of the judging panel.
Yes.
And in competitions, you're not trying to overpower them with something innovative. You're trying to give them the classic version of what they think a piece of barbecue or a cup of chili or a pizza should be.
Yeah, and the other thing too, on the front end of this competitions, is you want these people to feel fulfilled that they came here to this place. They had a great time. They saw some new stuff. They saw some pizzas. They'll steal ideas. They'll steal everything. They can order new products that are on the market, and they're all over the place now. And some of the best I've seen, like when they reached the finals, were the most confident people, where they would take a raw dough ball and they'd tell the judges, "This is the best pizza you're ever going to taste. This is the best pizza I've ever made in my life. Smell that." And then they smell the dough and everything like that. And a buddy of mine used to just say, "Go in like a Viking, pillage, kill them all." And I'm like, that's kind of a good way to go.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of going meekly, we had a couple people today going, "Well, it was a little more dry than I wanted to." I'm like, say that, man. That's
So,
but I mean,
you don't
thanks for
you
your
don't want to
honesty.
go in with your
but-
head between your tails. Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
So,
Yeah.
Scott, you were the head judge of the whole competition, right? Over all the categories.
And you had good questions. I like the question, do you do this in your pizzeria?
Well, and the reason I only asked that twice today, and the reason I asked that was because it felt like something different from what they were used to. And I just wanted to get an idea of, should my expectation of this person, it's not going to change the score that much, but am I expecting something that this person's done a million times? One person said, no, this is the first time I've ever made it. I never even practiced. And to me, I'm like, okay, I get it. It's clear from what you made. Okay, no problem. But I'm just curious. I honestly don't care so much about the tomato, how many hours this happened. But when people gave me that much information and I saw a flaw, then it turned into, oh, I get it. There's like a trend right now toward, oh, I like a lot of water. I like to really super hydrate my dough. Oh, I learned what a biga is. I'm going to use a biga, and I'm going to use 80%. But I also know long fermentation is good, so I'm going to go 5 days, without realizing that all three of those things are speeding up fermentation so much, there's no more sugar left.
Yeah, you've over fermented.
Yeah, and a lot of those were all over.
You know what that reminds me of when you're describing that? It reminds me of going into a restaurant and you're reading the menu, and the description on the menu tells you every farm that the ingredient came from, and you're afraid to not like it because they've done all the politically correct things on the menu, but then when it comes to the table, it doesn't live up to the hype. It's like it's overhyped.
But to me, in a restaurant, that stuff just validates the price tag. So if I see, oh, this is Berkshire pork and this is ba, and then I see it's $39 for a lettuce leaf, then I'm like, oh, but it's supporting this one local farm. It validates it for me. But I make that choice going in.
But it doesn't
It's
affect
not a
the way
surprise.
it doesn't cause you to like the product any better.
Not for me. I mean, just because I really I like what I like.
Yeah.
But I also know when you go into a restaurant, what you're paying for is not food. It's the experience of being in somebody's restaurant.
Yeah.
And when we opened the Oak Room in Boston, we had the Madame Veuve Clicquot came in and did a special tasting for us, and so we got these 1.5 ounce lily glasses. They look like lilies. They only held 1.5 ounces, and we gave free champagne to everyone who came in. And we sold more. We had opened, and then we started doing this. We sold more appetizers because of that little hit of sugar.
Yeah.
And with the alcohol, people got something for free. It's a double whammy. They got something for free.
Yeah.
Now they got a little buzz on. Oh, I think I'll have that. And those little things can add up.
So
It's
first,
kind of
first you get them with, now you're in our debt because we gave you something for free,
exactly it,
and
yes.
we've also tricked your taste buds
Yes.
to crave something else that's on the menu. You're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's the restaurant game for
And
you.
it's the restaurant business. And I like when you guys correlate that with the judging with how people's restaurant acumen is. I mean, how does this? Yeah, that's fine. You can make the best pizza in the world, but will that sell? And I like they had those points and the calzones. they had one of those the calzone tastings. Cause
Was that? Oh, that was a presentation. That wasn't a
calzone,
competition.
yeah.
There was no competition. Was there a competition
Yeah,
also?
it
Oh,
was,
okay.
yeah.
So we had. How many competitions? There was a calzone. There was a
Calzone.
Roman category.
The Roman,
What
Roman
else?
style.
Neapolitan. Yeah, which is the we say it's sort of the most challenging because it's the simplest,
Yes.
but the hardest. Yeah.
Napolitana, and then Napolitana has the two things: the marinara and the
The
margarita.
And those are the only two you could make within that category.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Roman style is a lot of people really didn't get it. I don't think they really delved into the real, like a Massimiliano Saiva over there. He's got his, the corners, like Rob was saying, the corners, the hydration. But they're making the rules as they go along. I mean, you go to Rome and you go to Banci's place.
Banci's very different.
Someone said, I hate to see seafood on a Roman pizza. You don't do that. I'm like, yeah, well, I went there 9 years ago at Banci's place, and he was putting sturgeon tartare in front of me on
a pizza.
So
with cheese.
well, there's what is that? The wagon wheel pizza they'll make in Naples at Michele, and so people bend the rules. They don't even use extra virgin olive oil. He uses sunflower oil on this pizza.
That's
And
interesting.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
This is the really interesting thing about competitions is that to enter a competition that's a specific category, you have to define the category really well.
Yes.
But to make great pizza, you do not have to define your category
Yeah.
very well. But to sell your pizza to a customer, they have to understand what to expect coming in.
Yeah.
So I'm conflicted because I'm very much interested in like creating a way of judging that's very standardized, and forget subjectivity. It's all mostly objective. But as a human, that's not how I eat pizza. So I'm very conflicted over that because I feel like competition world is different from being in a restaurant.
Yeah.
So as much as I love defining, this is Neapolitan and this isn't. There were couples that came out today that I was like, well, this is in this category, but it's not a well-executed Neapolitan pizza. But there are some pizzas that I like a lot more than Neapolitan that would not fit in the category. So it's just like, well, if the competition was just which one is good,
Yeah.
then throw out all the rules.
Well, help the listeners understand then from the judge's standpoint. So how much does the crust count on whether it's in every category or in a specific category? And how much does the eye appeal count? And how much does the choice of toppings count?
The way that we score is most competitions are 10 points in each category. There's a crust category, then there's a separate bake category, which takes into account the bake of the crust, slightly different. And then there's a toppings, then there's an overall taste. And then there's presentation, visual.
They're all worth 10, which seems a little unfair because I think psychologically most judges still put more weight on the quality of the crust than they do on the quality of the sauce or the cheese. Am I
think
wrong?
What we're looking at more often than not is the crust.
Yeah.
Just because that's the most.
And because if you don't nail
personal.
the crust, then you probably don't have a chance to win that category, even if you get 10s on everything else.
Right. Yeah, maybe that's an interesting way to change the competition. I don't know. I'm very conflicted about the way the scores work.
It's hard too because you get. I always thought, get a fake cast on one leg and two fake casts, and then come up in a wheelchair and have that pizza there. You'd get the sympathy vote from a lot of judges, and just say,
We've seen that happen.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's a tough. I really think there should be cut and dried rules too.
Well, what I'm saying is that even if you have those broken down like that I still think psychologically most judges still put more emphasis on one of those categories than they do on the other, meaning the crust as the first thing. Because if you go again, if you can't recover from an underbaked or burnt crust, I think.
Part of me wants to create one score. You give it a score from 0 to 100, but then you have to write down like the three flaws or three pluses.
Factors.
Like there's more information to it.
That's an interesting way to do it. That would be a cool system to create.
Yeah,
it's a hard one to enforce, but
I really like being able to go back and adjust scores once I see my 10 or 20 that I'm judging. So I keep my notes on it, and I used to keep a part of every slice on the table back before they collected the sheets.
Yes.
Because then I could go back and be like, well, that one was the best one. Let me make sure that my numbers reflect that.
Yeah.
Because that's a way for me to kind of polish the edges of Well, I was really hungry at 9 a.m.
Do you still do that?
Now it's 3. Now they take the sheets.
No.
But that means I take a photo of every score sheet I do, and then I reference them back, and I go, oh, well, if that one was an 8.75, and this one was slightly better, then, well, this has to be a 9.
Yeah.
You ever given 10?
Never. No, not never. There may have been once ever, but it's really, like, I hold that back.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll never happen, but, like, that's
well,
really...
it used to be like that
in...
in, and I'll use another analogy again, gymnastics. It used to be that no one could ever get a 10 in gymnastics, and then Olga Korbut and Nadia Comaneci started getting 10s, and then the whole rule system changed, and then everybody's getting a 10. If you don't get a 10, then you might as well hang it up. And
So
now
then it
they had
reverts
dial
to
it
the
back.
losers. Like, oh, you got a 9.8. Oh, you got a 9.8, and the rest are 10s. You're
and
a loser.
And the other part of
it's
that is
whoa.
like, again, about certain things being out of bounds. So you're watching a gymnastic. I love gymnastics. I watch them do it, and they do this beautiful routine. And then at the very end, they hop a little bit on the landing, and the announcers go, "Oh my God, they didn't stick the landing." And then you see the score goes from what would have been maybe a 9.9 or possibly a 10, and they lose the competition because they didn't stick the landing.
It's really tough, but it's a competition. You're there to really
To excel.
You're competing, yeah. Which is why I also feel like the judging scale is very small scale, so that the 10th place person might only be a half a point away
That's right.
from the first place.
Yeah.
Which I think is a mental trick. It's,
Yeah.
If we had a larger scale, then you would see. Well, it's just tough mentally. If I was competing and I got a 55 out of 100,
Yeah.
it's really tough. Like, you want people to have a good time.
Yeah.
But it's a
And
competition.
That's the tough thing, putting up those the scores up there. People will. They're like scientists. They're like, hold it, he got this,
Do
I
they
got
put
this.
scores up?
Oh my God, I was like 1/10 of a point away.
Oh, yeah.
What?
But that's why I feel like it should be a bigger. I kind of wish competitors would see that they're 20 points off instead of what might look like half a point on a smaller scale.
What happened? I thought it was perfect. I hear that all the time. Yeah.
So,
Beat me by this much.
Oh yeah.
so in this competition here, do they post the scores?
Yeah, they do.
I don't remember them ever.
We
doing
had
that
an
before,
Italian
did they?
blogger a couple of years ago, and he cut
In
the
real
whole
time?
thing down. It was a 12-foot cardboard thing.
Yeah.
Brought it back to Italy. You could see, and he had broadcast. He had taped it up with duct tape, and he was going on and on about the judges. And he went.
So for him, it was
crazy.
all about the.
We had to kick
Yeah,
him.
because
we
the
had to
judges
kick him
were.
out of the thing.
So is it in real time? Do they post your score at the time of your thing or at the end? So you get to see then you get to see how you did against the others.
Well, because they put everything into a spreadsheet, all the 3 judges, and they average out the numbers.
So for this competition here, what do the winners get? What kind of prizes do they get? Money?
Free pizza for life.
Free
No,
pizza.
no.
There's some money
You win.
involved here.
There is some money, and put up by sponsors probably. But so this particular competition, at times there's been something called the Caputo Cup, we've talked about, and then there's been the U.S. Championships. What's this championship here at the Atlantic City? Do we have a name for it?
The International Pizza Challenge. So
Okay.
there's one in Las Vegas, and then there's here. They're trying to make the one in Las Vegas actually larger than the one even in Parma. But that the disciplines. So the disciplines are the problem. There's so many different disciplines, and so like if you're an Italian and you won the Napolitana here, and you're so we used to do that. But we'd have the finalists as the Napolitana winner, the pan pizza winner, the non-gluten, and they would go together, and then you get the final guy who wins.
Like best
that
in
Italian
show,
guy won
Yeah.
out of everyone, and then all the other Italians said you didn't go against other Napolitana people.
Yeah.
And so it's a really
It's a tricky one.
tough
But
thing.
Standardize all global competitions.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
they're, like when I would enter into
It was a
chili
tough one, that would be
competitions, if you won a regional championship, that automatically got you a qualification into the national championship. I think barbecues are the same way. So do things like that happen in the pizza world too?
Fewer competitions, and each one is their own. So you could win the best in the world at the competition in Parma, or the best in the world at the one in
But it doesn't
Vegas.
get you into Naples, and it doesn't get you into.
Yeah.
It doesn't automatically pre-qualify you. But of course,
Doesn't this one
nobody
send
has.
you to-
Everybody gets. Everybody
Vegas
can
one
enter.
sends you to Naples.
But everybody can enter anyway. There's no if you don't have to have won anything to be able to enter, even in the most prestigious competitions, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's a different world, and it's an evolving world. This is pretty new actually for the for us here in the States. So I guess the rules and the processes will change over time. But it's cool to we're kind of getting the insiders behind the curtain look from you guys today. So I appreciate that.
Can be. I mean, I'm still digesting.
Yeah.
I will be for a month.
Yeah. Well, I know you had a big dinner last night, and
Really good for my guys. They were judging, so I got to take them out at night. So I'm good. I'm like, hey man, how about some fries for you, and I'll have the prime rib, double prime rib over there. Okay.
Well, listen, guys, I want to thank you so much for stopping. Scott, congratulations on your new baby daughter.
Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. For those who
What's
have
her name?
Shelby.
Nice.
And for those who have heard
After the
and
car.
followed Scott's
I
career,
only found out about the car afterwards. Seriously, I had no idea.
we followed you from when you were a swinging bachelor to a married man, and now
be fair, I was
with
never
a
swinging
with a beautiful daughter. Yeah. it only appeared that way to the rest of the world.
yeah, exactly. Appearances are everything. too.
Wow.
That's right.
Reverence the references of others, not the things they reveal.
I love that.
That's it.
All right, guys. Thank you again.
Thank you, Peter. Oh my God, she's beautiful.
It's there. We're looking at a picture of Scott's little daughter Shelby. Yeah.
Shelby Celeste.
As they say, the mother must be beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah, exactly. Because she doesn't look like me. No,
Guys,
Peter, it's
thanks.
been
John,
awesome
thanks for being here.
chatting.
Thanks a lot. It's
Thanks
good
for
to see you
having
guys.
us.
Gotta run, sorry.
All right.
Run.
John's heading back to
Oh.
the
Yeah, neck of the woods.
Oh, that's right. You are.
Yeah, Chinatown.
Oh, so you're taking off. You're leaving. All right. We'll see you at the next one. Guys, we're gonna call this a day. Thank you all for listening to Pizza Quest. We'll see you all in the next episode. And Scott, I know you've got to get back to the judging table, don't you?
Are
you done?
Oh, wait, you're right.
You told me you were on the clock, so I want to be able to make sure you get
You're
back
right.
to
I
the
probably
next thing.
do. I actually don't really know. All I know is I'm glad that I got to come and hang
yeah,
out
I'm glad
finally.
you got to be here and
Thanks
be
to
back
Zach
with
for
us.
everything, Peter.
And again, thanks for all the work you do behind the scenes here for
It's
the
my
pizza world.
my true pleasure.
And don't forget a shout out to Slice Out Hunger.
That's really why I'm here. Slice Out Hunger. Yeah, our nonprofit. We are nationwide, almost 700 pizzeria partners, and we do a lot of work as a big team to fight food insecurity. SliceOutHunger.org.
Slicing it out one slice at a time.
Yeah, baby.
And again, that's a nonprofit organization that you created and put a team together to operate. So thank you for that, the give back part of your life.
It's super, super important. We are in the food world, and a lot of people can't afford to feed themselves. So how do we solve that? We have the power.
And
We make the food.
and one of the things I liked about your organization is you don't ask the pizzerias to give away pizzas to support. You pay them to make the pizzas from the monies that you're able to raise.
Yeah, we
correct?
have some programs where we ask pizzerias to donate, but it's very minimal. If you donate 30 pizzas per year, you are officially a partner of ours, if you want. And then we have programs where we buy pizza from pizzerias, and that's it. We buy from our members or even from non-members. We're there. We care about the end user. Like
Yeah,
the
'cause you
person
get
who needs food
those
is the most
pizzas
important
that
person.
that you get from them go to feed people that
Absolutely.
need them.
Absolutely.
All right. Still, you do a lot of feeding of the medical workers as well.
We were doing that more
lot
with the beginning of
during
the
the
pandemic
pandemic,
and
yeah.
during the pandemic. But you know what? Whenever there's somebody in need, we do what we can to help.
It's always hunger. Well, again, thank you, Scott, for everything. Always great to see you.
Thank you, Peter.
And,
Pleasure's mine.
And we'll see you at the next round. And we'll watch and see all of you on the next episode of Pizza Quest. Thanks for joining us.
Pizza Quest is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribed.